Welcome back, YouTube. It's your old pal Double D. Today we're gonna take a little raw reaction to the Unearthed Arcana Expert Classes video from Wizards of the Coast for the next edition of D&D. Let's see what Jeremy Crawford and the boys are up to.
With things. I can't wait for people to play test. We're playing testing them internally here at Wizards, and leading the pack in this playtest for the classes are the Ranger, the Bard, and the Rogue. People are going to see in the next few months all of the classes from the 2014 Player's Handbook are going to appear in Unearthed Arcana so that people can read them, give feedback, play test them. Following after that, you're going to see a series of Unearthed Arcanas that also unveil new versions of subclasses as well as some brand new subclasses for those classes. The total number of subclasses when all is said and done, 48.
He seems proud of that. 48 subclasses. Well, I guess when you're not changing much in the rules, just feed a bunch of useless shit to your players and hope hope they're happy.
So we have a lot of fun things ahead of us to try out. But today we're focused on our friends, the Bard, the Ranger, and the Rogue, along with, as you mentioned, a bunch of feats, because each of these classes, like all of the classes in the game, has the option at certain levels of taking feats, including the new ability score improvement feat, which many fans rightly predicted is what was going to be coming. And
we predicted it because we knew how cowardly you guys were, and that you don't want to have anything to do with anything racial or ability wise that might offend the couple thousand lunatics on Twitter.
sure enough, when you reach any of the levels that in the past where you would have gotten the ability score improvement feature, now you have the option of taking the ability score improvement feat, does exactly the same thing as the ability score improvement feature in the 2014 Player's Handbook, or you can take another feat of your choice.
It's just kind of sad to realize there's probably people out there that are legitimately excited about stuff like this. I don't know, am I getting jaded in my in my old age? But all right, so you guys chickened out, and now ability score increases are going to be feats. I mean, big deal.
If your group is deciding to go beyond the ability score improvement feat and the first level feat that you're getting from your background in the previous Unearthed Arcana. This UA also includes the Arcane, Divine, and Primal spell lists all the way up to level 9, and it includes a rules glossary that is filled with even more treasures than the previous one, because over the course of the next year and a half, we're going to try out different versions of core rules and then see what people think of those different versions. A great example of this is how we're handling critical hits.
Yes.
So you and I, in our video last time, talked about the fact that the previous Unearthed Arcana had a rule that we knew was very experimental,
Right.
and had a good chance of not being what the community was going to cheer for.
So why do it? He's talking about taking away critical hits for monsters, from the DM, which hardly anybody liked. I mean, they had to know that. I mean, good Lord. But are they looking for a little bit of controversy? As Eric Bischoff says, controversy creates cash. So maybe they're just looking to get a few eyeballs here and get people invested and interested.
But we were interested in seeing what do people think, because there were some angles to that rule that we were fascinated in seeing how can this serve the game. We've already seen some of the responses, and you're going to see this time that For the current version of the playtest, we are using the critical hit rule as it exists in the 2014 Player's Handbook. So again, make sure if you're playtesting and everyone else is playtesting, read the new rules glossary, where you'll also see that we are experimenting with different rules this time around for the D20 test. This time we don't have the universal rule of a 20 always succeeding and a 1 always failing. Instead, we are...
This is going to be the same thing as the critical hits. I mean, I think that's such an ingrained part of the game. Rolling a 20, there's that visceral charge everybody at the table gets, like, oh, I got a 20. And to take that away and, have it maybe not be a success, I don't know. In some respects, I guess I can appreciate, them trying something different in that regard. But what they did with the critical hit kind of makes me suspicious. They're just doing the same thing over again. They're just getting people invested in this silly playtest where not much of the rules are going to end up changing. But they're going to occasionally threaten to do stuff like that. So you mark my words. You mark your old pal Double D's words. When they release the next playtest, they're going to be like, "Remember what we told you about 20s and ones not being automatic successes and failures, respectively?" Well, we threw that out too. We listened to you. Well, you could have listened to us beforehand, and you know we told you that it's not going to fly, but we'll see.
Playing around with some other approaches. Although there, you're also going to find a familiar friend in that we're largely using the 2014 version of the rule, with the catch that this time we're testing rolling a 1 on a d20, giving you inspiration.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Because we
Rewarding failure. Welcome to 2022. You shouldn't get anything good when you roll a 1.
basically have 3 different modes we are looking at for getting inspiration in play. Last time we asked everyone to try out getting it when you roll a 20. This time we're asking you to try it out when you roll a 1. We also, in the previous Unearthed Arcana, had another mode in the human of getting inspiration when you finish a long rest. We've actually considered having that as a potential rule for everybody, but right now we want to try out the roll a 1 rule for everybody, and then humans have the special feature of getting it at the end of a long rest.
I'll be interested to see if that survives. I'm not sure. It may. They may stick to their guns on that, but just with the sensitive nature of race in this game, and I can almost see the brigade of lunatics and neurally divergent weirdos on Twitter saying, why is it humans only get this benefit? um, we'll see then if they have the guts to stand their ground. I'm not holding out hope, but maybe they will. We'll see.
Right.
Now, speaking of humans and the other content in the previous Unearthed Arcana, the survey for that UA is still open, and the response has been tremendous. As of today, over 40,000 people have completed the survey. We are then going to go into our investigation of what has everyone said about the different options that were in that UA. We will look at all of the satisfaction scores. And then in a future video, you and I will get together and we'll talk about what did people say. And then at a future point in this journey we're on together, we'll present a new version of that Unearthed Arcana, incorporating people's feedback. That's going to be the cycle that we're all in together during this long playtest.
I don't believe it. I mean, it's like the old DM railroad. You have a certain amount of freedom, but he knows where you're going. They're not going to change things. They've already said they're not. But take these people at their word. If they're going to change something, they've already proven the only thing it takes is a couple of squeaky wheels on Twitter to do that, and they will buckle and they will bend and they will get down on their knees and apologize. That's all it takes. So normal people, you can fill out all the surveys you want. It's not going to do any good.
Just like we did in D&D Next, we're going to present something,
Yep.
we're going to get the feedback back, we'll analyze it, we'll do a new version incorporating feedback, and then we'll get feedback on that new version until, in a few years' time, the game coalesces into the new core books.
And if you're watching this video, please remember, we appreciate all the comments on YouTube and other social networks, but what will really help us in the end is if you
Do you appreciate our comments on YouTube? Something tells me you don't appreciate certain comments.
download the playtest and then take the survey that comes out and leave your feedback. That is how you help us sculpt the future of D&D together.
Yeah, filling out that survey is
Pundit just did a video the other day talking about how they want to make every race in this game like a gray ooze, and I think that is like spot on. This whole new edition is just going to be a slurry, a gray ooze that they're just repackaging, and they're going to make a lot of money from people just rushing out and having that initial euphoria. And then I think it's going to hit them that probably not a lot has changed, and what did change is just so inconsequential.
so. This time around, what we're asking people to look at are these classes, which also are framed in a way that is new for the current version of the game.
Let's go ahead and dig into the
Something
classes
new?
then. So we've got 3 of the classes here, and then we've got subclasses attached. So tell me about what's changed.
So one of the first things is that framing that is going to be new for people. And that is that these 3 classes are presented as experts. So people are going to see in this Unearthed Arcana that the 12 classes of the Player's Handbook, as well as the Artificer, who, while not in the Player's Handbook, gets mentioned in this UA, each of these classes is now a part of a group in this playtest. The Ranger, the Rogue, and the Bard are part of what's currently called the Expert group. So hence the
You can just picture a bunch of YouTubers just, oh my god! They threw them in a bucket, and people are going to be super
name
excited over
of this
that.
Unearthed Arcana, the Expert Classes. In future
what?
Unearthed Arcanas, you're going to see the other class groups featured, but we wanted to start with the experts. Now, this new concept of class group, new for the current version of the game, is something that has appeared in D&D's history at various times, going all the way back to even the second edition Player's Handbook grouped classes in a similar way. The big question is
Looking
here.
for a little legitimacy there, I think, by calling up second edition. See, this was done before. Well, I mean, not everything that was done in first and second edition was good. I played my share of first edition and more so second edition. It was never something anybody ever thought about. Like we never sat at the table and were like, "Hey, do you realize we're all in the same bucket?"
What do these groups mean? The
Group.
main thing that they do for us is provide a way to deliver groups of classes certain elements of the game collectively. So you're going to see in this very Unearthed Arcana, some of the feats, for instance, have certain class groups as prerequisites. You'll see a feat where it says you maybe need to be a member of the Expert or the Warrior group to take this feat. What that does is it allows us.
Back in my day, in the early days of third edition, you would just buy a ridiculously overpowered mongoose player supplement. The complete fighter's handbook, the complete wizard handbook. Had a bunch of untested at best and way overpowered stuff at worst.
to serve up options to multiple classes simultaneously. And if we were ever to make a new class and put it into one of these groups, then suddenly it is able to tap into the shared tech of that group. You're going to see this.
I mean, it's basically just like a corporate efficiency improvement. I mean, I could see somebody rushing into old Ray Winninger, with their TPS reports. I figured out how we can improve the efficiency of these classes. We'll group them. We did it
In
before.
the next year or so, where you'll see magic items that, rather than having a particular class or a particular feature as a prereq, we'll have one of these groups or multiple groups as a prerequisite. You're also going to see that in many cases, while the classes have retained their distinctiveness and their delightful asymmetry, where they work in the ways that are most appropriate for those individual classes, you're going to see more common pieces. So one example of that in this.
I have a theory. The more focused everybody is on their own individual class, it's like a reflection of just the narcissism of society in general right now. Everybody's just focused on their one little thing. And just, I know it's probably, everybody's probably done it to some extent, min maxing, but just this hyper focus by the company now of just really, really drilling down and getting into the details and just making sure that the only thing that player cares about when they step up to the table is not the player to their left or right. It's just their own fucking character.
Another thing that the experts all have in common is that they are polymaths. They like to have pieces within their classes that are reminiscent of things in other groups. So it is by design that all three of the experts have components within them that are reminiscent of things that you might see in the warrior group, the mage group, the priest group, but here mixed together in a way that is unique to each of the expert classes. Now we can dive in to each of the classes individually and their subclasses.
Please do.
But that overview, I think, is exciting because it shows
45 minutes
that
of pure
we're
boredom.
not only thinking now of the classes as individuals and also then as a whole family, but then also in these subgroups. Something that people are going to see in both the Ranger and the Bard in this Unearthed Arcana is a list of suggested prepared spells. One thing that we have seen over the last 8 years very clearly is that sometimes playing a spellcaster can be a little daunting.
Right.
And so what we've done to...
Well, you allow every class to cast spells to the point that the magic user and the cleric are so watered down now. I don't know. If you really want to make a good change to the game, pare some of this stuff back. But taking away stuff from people with the maturity that they have now, I understand. They would be deluged with probably actual crying videos of people. How dare you take away the ability of a bard to cast stupid spells?
Make it a bit easier to ease into playing a spellcasting class that you've never played before is we provide from level 1 all the way up to level 20 a set of suggested prepared spells for the class. So again, you're going to see that here in the Bard, you're going to see it in the Ranger, and in future Unearthed Arcanas, when we get to other spellcasting classes, you're going to see it in them as well.
Having said that, if they are going to go down that route, actually, that's not a bad idea. If I'm just playing a casual game and I don't want to think too much, just sit me down, put a bunch of spells in front of me, and say, "Hey, on any given day, this is what you got." I mean, you could certainly do that on your own anyway. This is my default spell list, so I think that's all they're doing. So, hey, They gotta act like they're doing something, people.
Where we take some of the most iconic spell options and put them on a list so that, again, whether you're a new player or a veteran who may be just like, I don't feel like making a choice.
Lazy.
Please, D&D book, tell me. You can go to that class, look at the suggested list of prepared spells, and just start with that.
So ritual spellcasting has changed, or rather people have more access to it now?
Yes. So one of the many goodies in the rules glossary is the simple but important note that we are playtesting currently that basically if you can cast a spell and it has the ritual tag, you have the option of casting it as a ritual. In the past, a character had to have a feature that specifically unlocked rituals for them. And we've decided to experiment instead with just the ability of, again, if you can cast the spell and it has the ritual tag, you have the option of casting it as a ritual. And just
Boring.
have that turned on for spellcasters of all sorts.
And all the classes eventually get, and we didn't touch upon this, also can get access to epic feats or epic boons.
That is right. Now, every class, what was previously their 20th level feature,
Right.
they now get at 18th level. And instead, now at 20th level,
Do you guys have characters that high? We've never gotten anything that high. Yeah. The game gets boring after a certain level because the players know that there's only a few things that can really, really damage them. It's actually one of the reasons I kind of liked fourth edition. I know it's heresy, but like in their monster manual, they actually had like a goblin. They had like a low level goblin, medium, and then actually a high level one. So you could legitimately challenge higher level parties with, I guess, what, for lack of a better word, mundane creatures. Um, but when they kind of quote unquote simplified to 5e, it's like, all right, here's your demon. here's your third dragon of the week. um, I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. But after a certain point, it gets really tedious and silly to try to challenge like a 18th level. I can't imagine that. You'd be better off, honestly, just retiring those people, have them be NPCs, and restarting the campaign.
those epic boons that are in the 2014 Dungeon Master's Guide, you now get one when you hit 20th level.
Well, there you go. So, what do you all think? Are you are you just excited? Are you going to be able to sleep tonight? I'm going to release this the night before they actually release the playtest material. Um, doesn't doesn't sound too exciting. I still take them at their word that not much is going to change, and they are pretty much just shuffling the deck chairs on the Titanic. But I could be wrong. Hey, anyway, if you could go ahead and throw a like on this video, subscribe if you want to see more of this type of content, and I will let you go. You guys take care. Have a great night, and until we meet again, goodbye.